This is the raw, real, uncut story of the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, which hit North Carolina earlier this year. This is coming directly from the people who had to survive the storm, or those that are there volunteering and helping clean up the aftermath. These interviews are from a little town called Pensacola, where there was a camp of volunteers set up. These interviews are from 1 to 2 months after the storm had happened. This is the boots on the ground perspective of those that are there living it. We all have a different perspective, and we all saw different things. If you want my perspective, you can go back to video number 186 on this YouTube channel. As far as these interviews go, I wanted to tell the whole in-depth story. These interviews are one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. I've really struggled hard with posting these videos, but the world needs to know what's really happening out there and what these poor people have had to go through. This isn't about politics or views or anything like that. This is simply about telling the story firsthand and in depth. All I'm trying to do is figure out the best way to help these people by any means possible. I ask everyone to please stay positive and to not post negative comments about these brave people who are telling their stories. Seeing all the destruction was one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness. But at the same time, watching everyone come from all over the country with different backgrounds and different beliefs and all working together to help their fellow human was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I'm starting to realize these same problems are being encountered in every natural disaster. Please, let's work together to try and find solutions that will help these people. Thanks, everyone. So this next interview was with Madeline. Everyone at camp called her Mama, and she was definitely the mom of the camp. She took care of us all, and she was just the sweetest, most kind lady ever. Her and her husband, David, they took care of all 5 tents down there that had all the supplies for the communities. I'm talking clothes, bedding, food, like canned goods, stuff like that, all the healthcare supplies that everybody would need, diapers, deodorant, just everything. Any kind of personal necessity that anybody would need, they took care of. They organized all the tents, and they just worked their hearts out constantly, nonstop. And they lived there. They lived there through the storm, too. They were locals. She was 1.5 miles down the road. And they had to survive the storm, and they really had to go through some stuff. They had to watch helplessly as their neighbors were trapped in the middle of the river. If you look at these pictures, it doesn't even look like there's anybody in there. But there's actually 5 people in them. 2 people trapped in the trailer, 2 people in one of the vehicles, and 1 guy trapped on the shed. And they themselves only knew about 1 person that was stuck on the shed. They didn't even know about the other 4 until later. It's a miracle. But all 5 of them survived. It's really a pretty incredible story that she shares with me. What they had to go through was remarkable, but they still woke up every day and worked tirelessly to help their community. It was truly a beautiful thing that they did, and they were just absolutely wonderful people. I can't thank them enough for all the hard work and everything they did for the camp and for the people of Pensacola and just for everything in general. And I really appreciate Mama taking the time to sit down and have an interview with me. I break it up into 2 interviews. There's one where we just talk about the storm, and then there's another one where she sits down and talks philosophy with me. So be sure and check out the next video in this series to hear her philosophy interview. It's pretty awesome. All right, so I'm out here with Mama, the camp Mama. She has been working her heart out here, and you've just been out here every day since I've been here, and you and David put your heart and soul out here, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the hard work you've done. And I know we got the beautiful mountain back there in the background. You said, what's the name of that mountain?
Big Butt.
And that's the real name of it? Awesome.
I have a feeling that some mountaineer a long time ago said this thing's a big butt to climb, and that's my guess anyway. Knowing my ancestors, I'm sure it was something like that.
Oh, that's so funny. So, I know you've been doing a lot here in the tents, and you've been just basically running all this end of the camp and doing all the tents. What all do you got down here? You guys have...
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we are sort of on the far side of the hill as far as our services here at the camp. That since the flood, about a week after the flood, we opened Camp Miller here. It started at the fire department, but that was just because there was nowhere else to do it that had electricity. And then, so they moved down here into this field for Camp Miller, and it's called that because it's owned by the Miller family. And so they asked David and myself, my husband and me, to be in charge of supply. So that means that we are in charge of managing and stocking and giving out all of the goods that people in the community would need while they're trying to recover. So we have food of every kind, non-perishable food. We have animal food. We have livestock food in a small amount. Like we do have other ministries that are helping people with their farms in general, but we do have a few things on hand just for livestock. And then we have all your cleaning supplies, your personal supplies like, shampoo and soap and everything. And then we had diapers and baby needs. And then we have a huge tent just full of clothes for every type of, warm clothes, boots, jackets. And then a whole tent full of blankets and sleeping bags and camping gear and things that help people to stay warm and keep going while they were kind of figuring out their needs.
Right.
And as we go further and further into the, past the disaster, those things, we've needed them less and less. Like, people are beginning to need them less and less. So we are moving into beginning to change what we're doing here in the valley, because we don't want our help to become a crutch to where people are not able to get back on their feet, because
Right.
We don't want to crush the economy or cause the economy to slump, because you can go too far with charity where people can't take care of themselves after a while.
Right.
Because then the money leaves the valley, nobody's buying anything, and next thing you know, it's
Right.
hard to get back on your feet. So we've got some great, wise people running this camp who are working on ways to continue to help without it only being free.
Right.
So getting donations, finding contractors that can be paid that way, things like that. Just all kinds of neat stuff. So
Well, I'm going to take a quick view of your tents here.
Yeah.
Now, this first tent is the one with
that's
all
all
the
the food.
that's all full of food in there, and I might go in and take some shots here in a second. And then that tent there, it's
That
empty
was
now.
the cleaning tent and the personal care tent, but we've now consolidated them both into one tent.
Okay.
Partly because as it gets colder, it's getting more difficult to keep the tents warm.
Okay.
And they also weren't really designed to be in this kind of environment, so they're having a hard time staying intact.
Right.
So caring for one tent's a lot easier than caring for two.
Right. Right.
So.
And then the next tent is the clothing.
And then the camping and bedding.
Oh, it's the last one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those are great. Those are like military medical tents, and they're inflatable.
Yeah.
So they're very durable, and they're not hard to keep warm.
I heard they were medical tents, and that each.
They're designed that way. They have these little bays in there that you can close off, kind of like you would imagine an emergency room with all these little rooms.
Yeah, like
And
they Velcro.
so we've kind of made it into sections in the store in
Right.
the same way. So yeah.
That's awesome. I know you've put a lot of work in here, and you, David, had pretty much ran this.
Just a supply end, yeah. We're responsible for everything you see here.
Yeah,
But then
that's a
we've got-
lot. That's I mean,
And then we have a great leadership team over us that's been managing all of the different aspects of being in this valley and helping the people.
right,
And so we've been privileged to have one part of that and make a difference here. So,
right, right. What do you think of everything you've seen? I know you were here right when it happened, huh?
Oh yes, we're kind of unusual in the camp because most of the people serving here in the camp are from out of town. Somewhere.
Right.
Amazing volunteers who just said, "Hey, your life is more important than our life. We're going to come help." But there's a few of us who live here, and that's been awesome because it's amazing when you suddenly feel like the flood came to in the front of our house. Our house was fine. But many of our neighbors, as you may have seen in the video that we gave you, that many of our neighbors went down the river and none of them died. They should have died, but they did not.
It's amazing. You told me there were 5 people in that
5
video.
people in that video somewhere, even though we didn't know it at the time. And one of them we knew, his name's Jeff. He's our friend and neighbor. And we were sure he had died, and he did not.
That's
and
amazing.
then all those people ended up, most of those people, not all of them, but a good number of those people ended up at our house, plus some other people whose houses did not wash away, but they were trapped there because of the water. They ended up at our house because our house was the only one still intact enough to take care of anybody. And
Wow.
so we had this massive privilege to help our neighbors for a day or two because nobody could leave the valley, so we didn't have anywhere to go.
So that's a
and
beautiful thing. So all
it was such a blessing because it's our heart to help people, and literally we woke up in the mission field is what we feel like.
right.
That the minute we've had opportunities to do short-term mission work and things like that, but we woke up one day and suddenly the mission field is our front yard.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it was, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but in some ways it was a dream come true to be able to put our hand to really helping people, and people that we loved and people that we knew and people that were our friends and community members. So when we started serving down here at Camp Miller, that's literally a mile and a half from our house. So we joked that we're a mile and a half missionaries, and we're literally in a mission field.
Wow.
We're in a field, you know. So we thought that was kind of a good sense of humor, by God. That he's like, you're really going to literally go into a field.
Wow.
So being able to get up every day and drive literally a mile and a half to be part of a team that their heart is to love the people and take care of them and help them has been it's been a really difficult and incredibly rewarding experience for us.
Right. And it's just the people that needed it the most, you guys have helped them, and it's just I can't thank you enough for all you guys have done.
Maybe we helped them, but I have to tell you that it's meant the world to us.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you guys were here, how long did you ever leave, or did you have to get helicoptered out, or did you stay here?
No, thankfully, no. The first time we left the valley, I believe it was Monday. And it was in the back of a truck, and that was probably the scariest hour of my life so far, or one of them anyway.
Really?
Yes, because up to that point, really up to probably Monday, the only way to get, well, no, maybe not that long. I know that we heard it in increments because we were going to the fire department every day because my husband has to use a CPAP at night to sleep. And he has a battery pack for it, but it has to be charged every day. And the only place to get electricity was the fire department.
Wow.
So the first time we went to the fire department, you couldn't get all the way to the fire department because the road was washed out. But you could get close enough and then pick your way through the creek to get there. So that was a little nuts. And then about a day or so later, they got that enough gravel in there where you could drive across. And so we were going to the fire department every day, not only to charge David's battery for his CPAP, but also it was the only way to get any news. It was the only way to find out what was happening.
Right.
And they had a sign-in sheet where everybody would put down that they were okay so we could keep a record of where everybody was. There were all these wild stories of hundreds of people dying and hundreds of people, and thankfully that didn't end up being true. But at first, nobody knew.
Right.
So nobody knew how many people were hurt or dead or missing. And so it was a pretty terrifying few days. But as more and more information came in, I think many of us were amazed at what didn't happen.
Right.
Like that that it wasn't that bad.
Right.
Even though it's pretty bad,
Right.
it could have been so much worse.
Right.
Like I said, we had 5 people that we saw go down the river in their homes or in the water in their truck, and they should have died, and none of them did.
Wow.
I mean, there was no reason to believe that they would have survived that, except that they did.
Right. That's amazing. I know you said there was that one guy on the shed, and then 2 people in the truck, and then
a married couple in one of the trailers that it broke apart, and they rode the river on their couch.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And they, I don't know all the details after that, so I wouldn't want to speak to it, but I know they got pretty torn up by a barbed wire fence and had to get some medical care, and they don't, they lost their home completely, but they are okay.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
And that's just.
Yeah, you can replace a home, you can't replace a person.
No. No. How long were you guys completely cut off from society out here?
Yes, for about 3 days.
3 days?
We had the electricity at the fire department, and we had each other. We had the neighborhood, like the community. People descended on the fire department because nobody knew where else to go.
Right.
And so, and then people started taking their 4-wheelers and their side-by-sides up into communities to find people and look for people and do what needed to be done. And then I want to say Monday was the first day you could get out. And we did it in the bed of a 4-wheel drive truck, and the guy doing it, he said if he had known how bad it was, he would not have done it.
Really?
Yeah, and once we all went through there, we were like, wow, we survived that,
Wow.
It was my husband, myself, and our 14-year-old daughter that did it. And then after that, it depended on the day how good the road was, because it wasn't really designed for the vehicles that needed to come in because it was so destroyed.
Right.
And you work in you can see everywhere that's nicely paved on Boland's Creek, there was no road.
Right.
So just imagine what that was like to navigate through.
Yeah, when I first came here, it was still pretty muddy. I imagined that it was. I mean, you can see where it was just tucked away.
Yeah, and just certainly we're not the only community that went through that, but we definitely were pretty hard hit. So.
Yeah, I know this is definitely one of the hardest hit areas, and it's a. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
But I'll tell you what I see. I see people working hard to take care of each other.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
And
You know, we're not leaving people in tents. We're not leaving them in cars. That's not happening in this valley. If anybody tells you that, it's not true. I mean, if I knew somebody was in a car or a tent, what else would we do but be trying to find them a better place to go?
Right.
Now, I think we've got a couple of people that have chosen to put up a tent and stay on their property because that's just what they want to do.
Right.
Because they want to stay there and they're independent, whatever. But
Right.
as far as people being forced to do that, not in Pensacola.
Right.
I can't speak for anyone else, but not in
Right.
Pensacola.
Right. I know.
So that stuff is not true. And also, we don't have hundreds of dead people that they haven't told us about. We had 3 people die in this valley. 3. That's it. And there might be. I think there's a handful of. There's a handful of missing people, but not more than a handful that they have not been able to find in the community. So.
Right. I just know from what I've seen, and that's why I'm here trying to hear everybody's stories and perspectives, and it's just I don't know, I'm just learning a lot, and I've seen that a lot of this is just volunteers, and that it's a lot of.
As far as I know, it's almost all volunteers.
So you haven't seen much government here since the start, or as like the?
Well, yes, we've had several National Guard teams come in. We've had several actual active duty military groups come in and do some amazing work right there at the beginning, probably before you got here.
Right.
It was
I
really
got here
in that first month.
Yeah, and I got
and
here
then
right
a lot
about.
of their skills weren't really needed after that I know of, because we needed people that could come in long term after that, like
Right.
big heavy excavators and skilled workers. But they came in and did a lot of stuff that they were trained to do, like search and rescue, like
Right.
going up wellness checks, hiking into people's houses to find out if they're okay. Things that the military was trained to do, and they were great at it. It did get a little bit funny a couple of times, because they would go to somebody's house and the people would see that it was a military vehicle with a bunch of Army guys on it, and they wouldn't answer the door because they were scared.
Right.
So we started sending like locals with them so that they could say, "Hey, we're not here. We're here to help you."
Right. And it's not here for.
In my experience, that's all we got was help.
Right.
I can't tell you that I heard or I experienced anything but them helping.
Right.
And then I got to commend this one Marine group, which is funny because my husband's Army and we always joke about Marines. But there was a Marine group that had they took their leave, like not even on duty,
Right.
from Camp Lejeune,
Right.
and came up here and served
I've seen a lot of that
when
too.
they were on their leave.
Yeah.
We've got a guy that's stationed in Charleston in the Navy who's not even taking leave. This is the very edge of his liberty distance he's allowed to go. So he comes almost every weekend and serves all
Wow.
weekend, and then goes back to his job in the Navy all week. And he's been doing that almost every weekend for the past month and a half.
I've seen a lot of military people out here. It doesn't necessarily seem like they're here for the military, but they're military people and coming here on their own accord.
I've seen both.
You're right.
I don't know anything about federal response because we weren't eligible for any of it, that's fine because we didn't need any of it. Our house was not damaged in any way. All we lost was power and water like everyone else, and so we just had to wait for the infrastructure to fix that.
Right.
And they really worked hard. They told us it'd be months, and we got our power on a month to the day.
Wow.
And if you knew how far out we live and how much damage there was, if I could show you, them
Right.
getting that done in a month is incredible.
Absolutely.
Those people are incredible.
The work that's been gone on here is incredible on all levels.
And as far as I understand it, there is a very, very tiny number of people in Yancey County who still don't have electricity. It's almost everyone has electricity now.
I know there's. I've talked to a couple people here that are still on the mountain.
Yes.
That don't have power here.
And some of
And
that
that
is
are running on
about
generators.
rebuilding the infrastructure, and
Right,
some
right.
of that's about not being able to connect to a house because of the damage that it has.
Right.
So there's definitely lots of reasons, but it's not because they're not busting their hump to make it happen.
Right. And it's just it's heartbreaking because nobody out here had insurance on their stuff.
Right.
And so
because
whether
why would we have flood insurance when we're 2 football fields from the river and up on a
Right.
hill?
Right, and even mudslides and stuff. I mean, whether people lost a $3 million home or whether they lost a $30,000 home, they still lost it, and there's no recouping it. So
Right. And I'm sure that it depends on the insurance company too. But.
Yeah.
And see, because I've been really careful to not have much of an opinion about that.
Right.
Simply because we didn't need any of it, and so
Right.
I don't have any personal experience. with
Right.
it. But like as far as FEMA, the only thing we received was that $750 grant to help cover immediate emergency expenses.
Right.
And we did the application because why not?
Right.
And that's why we got that. But then very quickly it became clear to us and to FEMA that none of their services were appropriate for us.
Right.
Because we just had to wait for the power company to fix the power. Our well was fine as long as we could get power.
Right.
And our property is owned by our landlord, so any kind of claim he would have to make would be him. But
Right.
we don't need a claim because we did not sustain any damage.
Yeah.
So I can't even speak to what they're doing.
Right.
So
Yeah. What do you think is the most needed thing out here? What people need the most right now?
I think two things, and one of them you'll be obvious, and the other one might surprise you. The first thing that we need is volunteers. People who are willing to come and put their hand to anything that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
We need people who have skills, and we need people who just have willingness.
Right.
You know, we also need people who have like chaplains and spiritual training that feel comfortable reaching into a community and checking on people's hearts and their minds and helping them walk through this disaster. And that wasn't the thing. We need volunteers of all kinds. The other thing we need is communication. Yeah. And what I mean is that we need people who want to help to connect with a local ministry or an established, verified, ministry or volunteer team to find out what is needed before they arrive. Like, don't bring a bunch of supplies unless somebody that is in leadership in a camp or in a ministry or in a government has said those are the things we need. Because at this point, receiving just random donations, it makes us pivot from the things that we need to be doing to manage things that we don't need to be doing.
Right.
Like, we don't need any clothes.
Right.
Nobody
I've realized that real quick. I made the mistake of bringing clothes. I'm so sorry. But I didn't bring them here. I ended up taking them to Goodwill.
You're not alone. But that's why I'm telling this, is because there are a lot of people that want to help.
Right.
And will help, but don't realize that maybe the way they're thinking of helping is not going to help.
Right.
So education, communication, calling somebody, getting on Facebook and messaging Camp Miller and saying, hey, what are the current needs?
Right.
And donations are always accepted.
Right.
And we can be verified as a safe place to give money.
Right.
Because we have people who are managing the money very well, and our books are open here.
Right.
The leadership has been very clear that they're not going to do anything with the money except what should be done with the money.
And that's all I've seen, and that's why I love this place, is because you guys are all working.
And certainly we're not alone. There's a lot of great ministries and humanitarian aid out there that has proven their worth on the ground. Samaritan's Purse, different things like that. Nobody's perfect, but they've established a reputation of integrity, so you can feel good giving those kinds of places your money.
Some of this, I have ideas on ways to try and help efficiency. One of my ideas is to try and create a website to where we link those in need directly to the people that want to donate, and to where they can have a list of things that they need, and somebody who's seeing this in a different state or something can get the supplies and have the work abilities to come and go straight to them.
Awesome.
And I think that would be very efficient in the ways.
It would definitely, because if you were able to vet it person by person to know that they really had the need, then what you're doing is that those of us who maybe don't have a need, you can sort of weed that out.
Yes.
Like if I got on there and said I had needs, I would be lying.
Right.
So you don't need to think about me anymore.
Right.
It's getting to a place where it's becoming much more individual and not so much community need.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to focus on, because that way the people who are donating can see that it goes directly to these people, and they know that it needs help.
They can even make a wish list.
Right.
We've had one of our neighbors that their trailer went down the river, and I won't give too many details because I don't have their permission to give their private information.
I understand.
But the wife in the family, she loves to bake, and she bakes for a local store, like makes baked goods for them to sell. And since they lost their whole house down the river, she lost all of her baking supplies.
Oh no.
So since I know her personally, I was able to reach out to some people who said, can I help somebody? Can I adopt an individual or help an individual?
Right.
I said, and so we've got people in Charlotte area who are shopping Amazon and buying to replace all of her baking supplies.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for
coolest?
Everything you do.
Well, all I did was tell them.
That's it. That's what, I mean, you're the connection that made that happen. Without you doing that, it wouldn't.
But I think that anybody can do that.
Right. But you just have to have the heart and the will to do it. And there's,
this way, the people who are sending it, they know who it's going to.
Right.
And they know they're not wasting their money or their time.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to focus on. And that way, even people who come out here with equipment and stuff, they can come and get to work immediately, and there won't be any confusion. They won't lose any time. They'll be able to go straight to work and make the most efficient use of their time. And it also helps for people who homeowners who may want to just make sure that their home's getting put together correctly, and they may not want somebody that has the will and wants to help, but they may be in over their head and may be trying to do something that's beyond their means, and they may mess stuff up. So the homeowner themselves will be able to say, look, I appreciate the help, but do you have certificate, or do you have knowledge, or do you have
also vetted those
and so
they can help. And
so
you
the
would know that
homeowner
because of your career.
The homeowner will be able to vet the person coming to their property, and the person that wants to donate the time will be able to vet the homeowner and make sure they need help, and they'll be able to vet each other without having somebody in the middle. And I think that it'll create a much more efficient
Now, one thing that you've brought to my mind that I know you're probably already thinking of is that also we need to make sure that help doesn't devastate the region's economy, like we were talking about before. So, like, if it's possible to hook that person up with a local contractor that gets paid in some way, even if it's like, what if you had somebody that said, I'd like to donate money to pay a local contractor to come in and do that work.
Right.
Then you've created a job and kept the money in the community, and you've helped more than one person.
My thought is that this is more than this local community could ever handle.
Well, and that's true.
And that's
true. But
I look at it and I
that's great opportunity.
That's a great point that you bring up, is that you always want to try. I'm all about local, and that's even in my book I promote localism and the local communities and bringing each other up as much as we can local. And that's a very excellent point and that you bring up, and we always would want to try and help. When it comes to actually paying contractors and stuff, I always support local first and try and help have local contractors.
But you're right. I don't think we have enough contractors.
My thought was that they're probably so busy working right now they don't have time to even breathe.
You know what? You may be absolutely right. I don't know. I know that's not a world I work in at all. So.
Right. But even just from a heavy equipment standpoint,
if you hand me a chainsaw, I'm going to the emergency room.
Right. So
and the last thing I'd like to say, well, maybe not the last thing because it's not quite a positive note, but is one of the things my husband and I decided to do early on that has really helped us emotionally and mentally is to hold anything that we hear on social media with an open hand.
Right.
Like this, literally.
Right.
So what that means is we can't be certain just by hearing it that it's true.
Right.
So we're ready to either pull it in if we can verify it or let it go if we can't.
Right.
And so there's so many people out there that for whatever reason they exaggerate, they lie, they make up stuff, they create things. I don't know if it's for monetary gain or to get the likes and subscribes or whatever. But anything you hear about our area that you can't verify through a reputable source, hold it with an open hand until you can.
And that's why I'm here doing this right now, because boots on the ground and talking to the people that are actually here. Because I can't believe everything I see on the news or everything I see. The only thing I can believe is your story, what you've seen,
what you hear on the
and
news.
what everybody here. And I've spent today trying to go around and hear everybody's story, because that's what it is. And I'm not going to change it or modify it. And I go way in depth. So I love to hear everybody's story and hear what they've seen from their perspective, and that's all I can do is just hear everybody's perspective and see their views, and their perspective of what they saw. And I'm not here to change anybody's mind or form any opinions or do anything like that. I'm here to just tell the story as raw as I can and in depth as I can. I'm back home. I do a lot of stuff, and they always say I go too in depth and I talk too much and stuff, but it tells the whole story.
Well, let me tell you what. You've come to a region where we all like to run our mouths a lot, so you're just right at home here. You tell us to tell a story, and you're going to be here a while. So.
I love it, and that's what I love. And I even talk philosophy, and I've been doing philosophy. I started this page 6 months ago, and I just try and create positivity in the world.
That's awesome.
I know you're super busy. I don't know if you have a second to talk philosophy and wanted to, but. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I know you're busy. I won't do it. It's okay.
I know. I was just thinking I'd rather talk faith than philosophy, but
it comes into it. It comes into it.
But yeah, I would probably be out of my depth almost immediately with philosophy.
No, it's just it's a little different. I don't go too I say philosophy, but it's just the kind of deeper questions, just your own perspectives and views. I think
so
we all
maybe worldview.
Yeah. It's just I think that we should all. I try to get everybody to get along and just accept other people's views. And I think that if we all thought the same thing and believed the same thing, this would be a boring world. And I try to embrace everybody's views, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. I just love to hear their story and hear their perspective.
Well, that's
and
cool.
and that's kind of the questions I go through. I don't, like I said, it's just I say, what's your favorite song? What's your dream place to visit?
Okay, yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Fun.
Okay.
That sounds like way more fun.
Yeah.
It's talking about Descartes or Nietzsche or
Yeah. No.
All right,
It's nothing like
so
that.
ask me your questions.
All right.